Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, cha, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. You are listening to Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you and to all corners of the earth from the beautiful and book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest little neighborhood in all of Boston. In every episode of Reading with Your Kids, we travel the globe through the power of books, meeting wonderful authors and discovering stories that bring people together no matter where they live. So fasten your imagination seatbelts, open your heart, and get ready to explore another fantastic world of reading and family fun. We'd be really grateful if you can help us grow our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible, Player FM, YouTube. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. This is a really powerful episode. We're calling this episode Writing from the Part That Hurts. Our first guest, James Ponti, he's the author of City Spies. Europa is book number 7 in his middle grade series. But James shares much, much more than just telling us about his books. It's a very, very powerful interview. You don't want to miss it. And later in the show, we take a listen back to a conversation we had with the author of The Adventures of Toby Baxter series, one of our favorite guests, Tim Wright. Join us right now from Orlando in Florida. Our guest is here today to celebrate Book 7 in his City Spies series. It's called Europa. Please welcome to the show, James Ponti. James, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you on. I'm hoping that a little bit of the warmth that you're experiencing down in Orlando comes through the screen and warms us up here in Boston.
I'm sending sun vibes all the way. It was 79 yesterday, and the rest of the country was 10. So it was like unbelievable.
Yes. So tell us about the team that we're going to meet in City Spies.
All right. So City Spies, for those that don't know it at all, is a story about a British secret agent who, over the course of the books and mostly before the books start, has come across kids in need and unable to turn his back on them. He ends up adopting them and, for lack of better knowledge of how to live his life, raises them as a family of spies. And what they all have done is they all have taken as their code names the cities where they're from. And so that's why they call themselves City Spies. And in the team, we have 6 now. So there is, and for all of them, I wanted them all to connect with me. So I took my biggest problems from middle school and I gave each of them one of those. But then I gave them all kinds of abilities, like one's really good at hacking and one's really good at explosives and one's, a street magician. So he's really handy with eye-hand coordination. And so we have this team of these kids from all over the world. They speak different languages. They have different experiences and they work together. In this one, we have the story behind Europa is that each of the kids has been the main character in one of the books. So this is the 7th book. So this is the first time one of them is being the main character again. So that's Sydney. And Sydney is our rebel from down under. And she is into explosives and she is all about righteousness. And she is caught in the middle in this story where she's not sure who to trust. And our ultimate bad guy. So in James Bond, they have Spectre, and in Spy School, they have Spider, and I have this group called Umbra. And the leader of Umbra was arrested at the end of the last book, and it begins with him in prison, and he's trying to get out, and he's trying to basically hold Europe hostage in a way to get himself released from Belmarsh prison and outside of London.
That's a whole lot going on.
It's a lot. These books have a lot in them. It's with 6 characters, and each of them need to have their own storyline, and each of them need to have their own arc in each book. And readers have their favorites, so I have to make sure all readers are satisfied that their favorites get enough page time. they tend to have a lot going on in the books, which is both fun and sometimes daunting from my viewpoint. Yeah.
So what is the biggest challenge making sure that all those fans are met as is that something that's right in front of mind as you're crafting these stories? Like,
it is very present. It is very present. I go for each tour I go and I visit a lot of schools, and I've also visited schools for a lot of other reasons and do public library events and things. And I always ask kids who their favorite characters are, and I go through all of them. I go, whose favorite character is Sydney or Rio or London, or Paris, and all of the kids get hands raised, and none predominantly. So it's not like there's a singular favorite. So you really have to make sure everyone feels like their interests are attended to. And so, when I start the story, I work out. I'm not an outliner, but I do work out the idea of an arc for each of the characters to make sure they each have their own singular story in this other thing. More importantly, though, when I start the books, I think it would be really easy in books like this to fall into patterns and tropes and recipes, and I'm trying not to let them get formulaic. So I'm trying to think of, what's a different thing I can do, or what's a way that I can start it differently. So, for example, in this one, it's called Europa in part because Umbra, the evil group, is attacking 4 cities across Europe at once. And the reason I wanted to do that is I wanted the team to have to split up because we haven't done that. So 2 of them go here and 3 of them go here and 1 of them goes here. And that way they don't always have the adults or each other to help them out. So I am looking for each character to get their proper attention. And I am looking for how is this story going to be different than the previous 5 or 6. Or right now I'm writing book 8. And I'm trying, how is it going to be different from this one that hasn't come out yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I noticed on your website that you're the author of 4 different series. What is it about writing series that you enjoy so much?
I think part of that comes, my career began writing television. Mm-hmm. So I wrote for Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, and I wrote animation for PBS. And so series was, the concept of a series was always baked into my writing mind. Thinking in terms of not a story to tell, but what is a compelling group of characters and a situation or a setting that you can mine for multiple stories. And so that's always, I think, been my starting point. And so it has been the case that all the books that I've written have been parts of series. Mm-hmm. And what I like about, I think as a kid, those things appealed to me more as a reader. The idea that I would be able to revisit characters that I know and I'm comfortable with and I like and find out and grow with them. I think that's one of the neat things about a middle grade series is a book a year. Well, if the reader is along with you, once they've joined you, if they're reading all the way through, they're aging as the characters age and they're seeing the books differently. And that's kind of fun. They're seeing the characters differently. Mm. And so I'm just really drawn to the series concept.
When you were telling me that this series is based on the British secret agent who adopts these kids, where did the idea for that character come from?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic. So I come from a very unusual family background, and actually, what's funny is during the writing of these books, I have found out much more about the story. So I never met my father. I was born in Italy. I was raised by my mother. My mom told me that my father had died when I was a baby. By the time I was in high school or college, I began to think she's just saying that so I don't feel bad about the fact that he left us, but I had no way of proving it. That was Italy and I was in America. It turns out my father had multiple families. So he had 4 families. All these siblings that I didn't know exist in different parts of the country and the world. And even though I didn't know all that when I was writing that, the concept of that, the thought of that was always part of my thought process. So I wanted to write the reverse. So what happens in this book, in the series, the initial idea of the series is that this guy whose code name is Mother and his wife, Clementine, are both secret agents together. And they're on a mission that goes terribly wrong. And when that mission goes wrong, it looks like he's died in a fire, and she thinks she's going to get blamed, and she's worried about their children. So she goes back to London, she grabs their children, and she disappears. But he doesn't die, and he scours the earth looking for his children, which is the opposite of what my father did. Mm-hmm. My father, I was in my 50s when my father died. He never looked for me once. I wanted to write the father who was the opposite, who would move heaven and earth to be reunited with his family. And so on the way, because he's looking where he sees kids that could be his kids, and he stumbles across these other kids, and it's like, these kids are as deserving of a parent as mine, so I'm not going to leave them. And so that's where the idea, that kind of notion, which originally was just a fictional notion, which has kind of been borne out as I found out more about my family recently. My niece in Italy somehow tracked me down like 3 years ago, and that's how we found out the whole deal. But, yeah, that just appealed to me because on the surface, these are spy stories, and they have adventure, they have mysteries, and they have missions, and they have gadgets, and they have all the things that you would want, and that young reader in me and that young readers want. But that's not what the story's about to me. The stories to me are about what does it mean to be a family? Because I had brothers with a different last name and a different father. We were all put together, and people didn't think of us as a normal family, and we thought of ourselves as the only family we knew. And I wanted to write that emotion and then put it into the world of espionage so I have fun plots to play with. And that's why I think I really like doing the series, is I get to examine the dynamics of this family as it is ever changing and what the definition of family means. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he came from. And that was, it's not about him. It's about the kids, but he was the beginning.
That is absolutely fascinating. I can't imagine myself in your shoes, finding out that I have these siblings all over the world.
It is, it's funny. I have a group of really hardcore writer friends. There's like 10 of us who are just some of the best. One of them just won a Newbery Honor today, who are just amazing authors and great friends. And we are texting nonstop. And it happened. We were all at a convention the day I found this out. But I found out after everyone had gone to the airport, and I stayed in town for another day, and I got this email. And so they were all like, this is unbelievable. But there's also the sense of, but if this was going to happen to anyone, of course it was going to happen to you, James. And so I had this great support group as I'm constantly getting support from them as I'm reaching out to these new siblings saying, hey, I don't know if you want to talk to me, and it wasn't like they all knew each other and I was the outsider. None of us knew about the others. It was all discovered in like 24-hour period. And so we were all kind of, and it has been, and I find myself writing lines of dialogue in these books that I say to my wife about my newfound siblings. It's like, what makes someone your sister? Can someone be my sister if if we're both 59 years old and I've never met her, But yeah, she is, because siblinghood is not just one way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's been fascinating. I wouldn't say these books are therapy, but these books are a way to write about the things in your mind and the things that you question and the things that you wonder. But more importantly, that's a really extreme case. My case is really extreme. But there are so many variations of family. And I cannot tell you how many times young readers or the parents of young readers have approached me or pulled me off to the side and said, it really means a lot to my daughter, my son, because they see a family that's different in the way that our family is different. Mm-hmm. And they connect with that. And I'm like, that's the best thing you can tell me.
Yeah.
I want, we're going to connect with that. It's been said that books are like conversations where you can't interrupt the other person. It's like, I am going to share with you my thoughts on the complex idea of family. And you can't stop me. So either you can stop reading but yeah. So anyway.
Well, I love that idea of, family, our chosen families. I think it's so important. And I think everybody, experiences it on one level or another. I'm glad that now we're acknowledging it more. I think
Yes.
having a
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I grew up, when I grew up, by the time I was in high school, divorce was pretty common. When I was in elementary school, I was the only one I knew with only one parent. And even the kids who later on got divorced, they would like see their father on the weekend or their mother during the week or however they did it. But I was the only one like that. And people just, no one that I know of treated me different because of it, but it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like now that it's not so much a thing, and now it's just like, okay, that's his version of family. It's especially important because, kids have no say in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, parents may decide to get divorced. Parents may, in my situation, cheat on a spouse with someone else, or whatever like that. And those are at least decisions they've made, but there should be no judgment to the kids. And that's why when I reached out to my siblings, my newfound siblings, I said to them, none of us did anything. So this is strange, but none of us did anything. And if you don't want anything to do with me, I totally get that. And that's fine. But there's no blame on our level to go around. I've got nothing but love. So if you want to connect, then let's do that.
Yeah. How has this new revelation, how has it changed you as an author?
So I've written 4 book series.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was called Dead City. It was about basically the zombie police in New York City, underground New York City. The second one was like a Sherlock Holmes, like a kid Sherlock Holmes set in Washington, D.C. called Framed. And the third one is City Spies. And all of those, and this, I promise, was not an intentional thing. I joke with my wife about it. All of those, like a main storyline is a missing parent. So in Dead City, Molly's mother has died, and she is trying to fill the void of that death. In Framed, the best friend, Margaret, she's adopted, and she loves her parents. She loves her adoptive. They're her parents, whether they're adoptive or not. But she wants to know where she came from. And in City Spies, you have it 2 ways. You have all the kids are orphans, and the parent is like a reverse orphan, right? And so I constantly was writing about this theme, and this is a continuation of it. I don't know that it changed my writing style or my writing approach at all, finding out the things that I found out, because they were things that I assumed and just thought that I would never know the truth or the full truth. And that's really where the writing came from. I had to write a backstory in my head of where I came from because I didn't know half of where I came from.
Mm-hmm.
But it was when I was starting to write Sherlock Society, my newest series. So I do 2 books a year, one from each series, one from City Spies, one from Sherlock. And I told my wife, I said, I need to stop writing about the family that I grew up in, and I need to start writing about the family that we raised. So the family in Sherlock is my wife and me and our children. And then I write me as a kid in the City Spies. So I get to go back and forth every year. So it may have changed me in the sense of, I'm still writing about it in City Spies, but it's like my new writing, my new totally from scratch writing is maybe going to be a different subject. Maybe now I have put to bed trying to figure out where I came from.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Again, I'm just blown away trying to put myself into your shoes. And what would I've mentioned here in the podcast, I grew up in a neighborhood in Boston where everybody on both sides of my family lived within a square mile of me, which was both wonderful and also kind of annoying sometimes because you couldn't do
Yeah,
anything
of
wrong
course.
without
No,
one of your
yeah.
uncles that you hadn't met coming over and giving you a dope slap. Uh,
Yeah, no, but and that's great. It's funny. It's like my wife and I went to the University of Southern California. So it is as urban a campus as you can get. And I loved it. I loved my college experience. Our son went to a school in the Amish country in rural Ohio. So it was funny. It was like the total opposite experience. And both are fantastic, but they're different.
yeah.
I'll never know what his felt like being in a place where everyone you saw was in school with you, and it's this kind of bucolic thing. And he'll never know what it was like for me to go to school in this environment, which was urban, where there was gunshots, where there was gangs, where there was Hollywood around the corner. And, so the key in life, I think, is not being jealous of the parts you didn't have and embracing the parts that you did and wanting to talk with people about the parts they did. There were things of your childhood that I would have loved, especially because I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm imagining a block of that. You're going to get a lot of Red Sox. You're going to get someone to watch the game with or listen to the game with or go to the game with. I didn't have that. But I grew up in this amazing family with my mom and my brothers. I grew up in a small beach town, and I could walk on the beach every day. And I grew up with the same people my whole life. So I had a great childhood. I talk to kids about this a lot, when I visit. We didn't have money, because certainly that was a byproduct of our situation. We never had money, and I didn't have a dad, but I had a great childhood. And so I can talk knowingly about what it means not to have money. I can talk knowingly about what it means not to have a father. But for a lot of people, those carry with them a lot of negatives that my version didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I was always loved. I always had enough. We never had a lot, but we always had enough. And it also was an incredible lesson for me, because we did not have money, and I did not have my father. I never missed having money. I always missed not having a father.
Mm.
And so when it came time for me to be a father, every decision I made was kids first, money second. Mm-hmm. Even if in the long term I was going to think harder. I know that sounds very obvious and basic, but I knew it on a level that I get this part, and that's what we take from things, right? We take from and that's what books are. We write from the parts of our heart that hurt, and we try to show how to make it hurt a little bit less. Mm. And if a reader's heart hurts in a similar location, then that's an important connection, and so that's the beauty of what I get to do. I get to write from the part that hurts. And I get to write about it. And my books are not those after school special dark kind of things. My books are fun, light entertainment with hopefully heart behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very powerful. I'm really thankful that you're sharing, this with us, because I think it's pretty powerful. That idea of, not having a lot, but always having enough. And the idea that, you didn't have a dad, and unlike so many people who would just imitate that behavior as they became adults, you went the opposite way and just devoted yourself to your kids.
Well, it's funny. When I finally met my sister in Italy, it was great. A lot of tears, a lot of hugging, a lot of holding hands, walking through Rome, all this stuff. And at one point she said, I'm really sorry that you didn't meet our father. And I said, this is going to sound awful, because I hope he was a great dad to you, and I hope you love him so much. I go, I think I'm glad, because anyone that could do what he did, to turn his back on 3 separate families, has a view of women that is totally counter to my view of women. And I think one of the things that is important to me, I was raised by women and I work with women. I would hate to think that at an impressionable age, he might have affected that. Mm. I was raised right. And I don't know that I would have been. And so I'm fine. And I don't hate my father. I don't. I wouldn't be around were it not for those bad decisions. I wouldn't be around. My children wouldn't be around. I would never have existed. So, and that's another real lesson of that, actually, which is, you know, you see these things happen in movies or books and tropes of things, and you think, oh, the kid, it's like, but those bad things led to good kids sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes not. I mean, it's not like, oh, do it. It's like, but in my situation, I was really lucky. In my situation, it led to good stuff. And, you know, and you write about the parts. And there's a funny thing in the latest Sherlock Society book, in Hurricane Heist. There's flashbacks when you go back to the 1960s, and part of it was a flashback for me back to the late 70s. When this character, the grandfather character, when he was 12 years old, and he goes to this resort in Miami Beach. Well, when I was 12 years old, my mom was a travel agent. She did this amazing thing. She opened a travel agency in our house because she thought even if she didn't make money, she could get discount trips, and she thought travel was the key to expanding your universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so we never had money, but we went a lot of places. And one day she got a call and it said, oh, on this cruise ship, we got a room that's going to go empty. If you can get down here tomorrow in 2 days, you can have it really cheap. And I said, absolutely, we're there. But we needed a place to stay because the cruise left from Miami in the morning and we were in Jacksonville. So it was like a 4 or 5, it was actually 6 hour drive, I think, 5, 6. And so we needed a hotel to stay at the night before. And my mom usually, were her clients, she put them in this one hotel in Miami Beach called the Deauville. And the Deauville was a really nice hotel. And we drove, and so she called the guy and she said, you know, I've put a lot of people in your hotel over the years. I'm coming. I was wondering if I get a room, if you can give me a discount. My mom was always looking for a discount.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy says, forget the discount. I'm going to comp you a room. You've got a free room at the hotel. She goes, you've been a great colleague of ours. We appreciate so much your hard work in your business. You're taken care of. So it's great because, you know, we weren't sure, you know, we were going to really probably end up staying at a shady hotel somewhere in Miami, and we're going to stay in this nice hotel. And so we get there, and our car, I mean, one time we had this beat up old, I don't even know, maybe a Corolla. It was a beat up old car. And one day I had not shut the doors. My mom was backing up, and the basketball goal bit the passenger door. And so it only shut if you tied it with a rope, right? And there's 4 of us in this car, met for 3 at most. And so our suitcases were in the trunk, and the suitcase had to be tied because it would. So we are arriving at this Miami resort in a car with the door tied and the trunk tied, looking like the Clampetts have just invaded, right? And the bell captain comes out and waves us off. He like physically blocks the driveway and tells my mom, you can't come here. There's no vacancy. And my mom is like, I have a reservation. He goes, no. She goes, I have a reservation. I have a room here. And the guy turned to the other bell people and says, do not unpack their stuff until I get back. So, but my brother, he's getting out of the car. Literally, out of the car is NASCAR style through the window. So he's climbing out the window so he can untie the door. And they're all frantic because everyone's staring at these people in their resort hotel. And this guy really liked my mom, the guy that, the reservation guy. She'd really done good work for her. And his way of saying thank you is he hadn't comped her a room. He had comped her the penthouse suite.
Oh, my goodness.
We were in a 5-room, 2-layer, with the staircase, 7 phones, ocean view, penthouse suite of the Deauville. And this man who thought these hillbillies just pulled up looked and saw that that was our room and must have almost passed out. Thought my mom was the most eccentric millionaire he'd ever come across. Came running out and said, quick, help these people. These are very important people. And all of a sudden now, they're all like, yes, sir, no, man, yes, ma'am, yes, please, come this way. I'll take those bags. You don't have to worry about that. It was so nice. Now, this is back in the days of film. So not a camera where you could take as many pictures. We wasted a whole reel of film taking pictures of ourselves lounging in different parts of the room. Because this was like the nicest thing we had ever seen. But I knew, and I loved it, and we had a great time, and it's a funny story that we told forever. But I knew everyone there thought we didn't belong.
Mm.
And I knew that we got looks, and I just didn't care. And so I wanted to write about that. So that's Grandpa's story. Grandpa goes to this resort, and because his dad runs a lumber company, is a hardware store, they have to use the side entrance. And the pool's not for them, and the this is not for them. They can work there, but they can't use the front. And I just wanted to write about that experience because I remember that experience. And it didn't shatter me, and it didn't even embarrass me. But I didn't forget it. Mm-hmm. And I know kids feel that way sometimes. I know kids feel like, okay, I'm being accepted here today for this one reason on the side. And so I wanted to write about that. So I try to write about the moments from my youth, but I put them in these fantastic situations with spies or mysteries in Miami or zombies underneath New York.
That's wonderful. And I'm imagining there are kids out there who are seeing themselves in your books and thinking, yeah, that's me, but I can overcome this and I can make my life pretty magical.
Well, I would hope so. And not even that it has to be life changing, but if they can go on this adventure and they can feel like this is this, I have a friend who writes me every now and then and says that, their kid rereads all the books every year. Mm. That it's like comfort food. Mm-hmm. And I know life is not always easy when you're growing up. And it's like, if I can be part of that comfort, oh yeah, man, that's special.
Yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about the City Spies and all the series you're creating and find out more about you.
Well, you can go to jamesponti.com is the easiest way. That's my website. I will say in advance, I make my own website, so I'm not the most tech person, but I've tried to make it good and work. And you can go there. You can go to my YouTube page or Instagram, James Ponti Books, on both of those. And there's a lot you can find about characters. There's a real fun video I just put up on YouTube, which is I had a bunch of hardcore fans. I had 20 hardcore fans. I put the word out, and they all recorded videos of themselves explaining the books for someone who's never read them. And because I went to film school and television, I worked in television for a long time, I edited it all together in like a minute and a half version of these are what the books are about. But it's just really fun because I believe in expanding the world of what we're doing beyond the page. Mm-hmm. So a podcast is a great way, video is a great way, things where young readers can participate and they can, they tell me, hey, I want more of this, I want less of that. And I don't always give them exactly what they want because I still need to make the decisions based on the way stories work, but I really listen to what they have to say. And boy, sometimes they are insightful, and many times they are more familiar with my books than I am. I mean, they will tell me stuff and like, oh, you're right, I forgot about that. Yeah, it's great.
That's wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Europa. It is book 7 in the City Spies series. Our guest has been James Ponti. James, thanks so much for being here and sharing so much with us.
Thank you, Jed. It's great to be here. And thank you for helping to spread, the love of middle grade fiction and books with people. That's such a great thing you're doing.
Thank you. Hey, this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by AspireDrinks.com. Hey, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever wanted a little extra energy, but not the kind that makes your heart race or leaves you crashing an hour later? Well, that's exactly why I want to tell you about Aspire Drinks. You'll find them at AspireDrinks.com. Aspire calls itself a healthy energy drink, and honestly, that description really fits. Instead of loading you up with sugar or extreme caffeine, Aspire delivers a gentle, steady boost with 80 milligrams of natural caffeine from green tea and guarana. That's about half the caffeine of most energy drinks, enough to help you stay focused without the jitters or the crash. It's also 0 sugar, 0 calories, and 0 artificial additives, which makes it a great choice for parents, teachers, and anyone trying to make healthier choices while still getting things done. And get this, it actually tastes great, light, crisp, and lightly sparkling, with flavors like sweet cherry, raspberry acai, mango lemonade, that's what I love. No heavy aftertaste and easy on the stomach. Aspire is packed with B and C vitamins, biotin, and ginger. And it's vegan, gluten-free, keto-friendly, really designed for real life. And just for Reading with Your Kids listeners, you can get an exclusive discount of 20% off. That's the highest discount available when you shop at aspiredrinks.com and use our promo code READ. That's READ at aspiredrinks.com. Healthy energy done right. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Phoenix in Arizona. Our guest is returning to the show to celebrate book number 2 in his wonderful middle grade novel series. It's called Toby Baxter, River Home from the Holidays. Please welcome to the show the author, Tim Wright. Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm great, Jed. Thank you. It's good to be back with you.
I'm really happy that you're back here with us, and I'm really excited to let everybody know that not only is River Home for the Holidays a great middle grade novel, in my opinion, but our certified great read panel agrees with me wholeheartedly, gave it 5 stars, and named it a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Congratulations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. They really love the story. So tell everybody out there what kind of adventures and mischief Toby gets into in this book.
Yeah, so this is book 2. And book 1 started with Toby being introduced to the world of River Home through his closet. And on his first adventure there, he's called to be a hero and to save River Home. And then he's called back in book 2 during Christmas break. So all he wants to do is sled on the snow in Minneapolis, and they just had a great big snowstorm, and then he is called back to River Home. And this time things have changed dramatically. The place is dying. Their source of energy has been taken, and it's going to be Toby's job, along with his friends, to try to figure out how to put life back into the land. And so a lot of holiday stuff around that. Every chapter title is a song of a Christmas carol or Christmas song. So I tried to have some fun playing with different songs and keeping it's a nice Christmas story or holiday story, but certainly can be read any time of the year because it's a part of a series.
So a dying world that lost its source of energy. It sounds vaguely familiar. I can't quite put my finger on what it might be referring to.
Well, I'll let your readers figure that out. But I think that the fun of it is, trying to use imagination to create a place where these kinds of things happen. And then in Toby's case, it's really for him a showdown with his arch nemesis from book 1. And what it is that puts life back into the world. And just a little hint, since it's the holiday season, it's going to be joy, it's going to be laughter, it's going to be wonder, curiosity. And all of that is sort of woven into the book, along with some, hopefully some fun surprises.
Yeah. Well, I am certainly loving the fact that joy is bringing life back into this world. I think we need more joy in our world to kind of help us not only bring some life back into the world, but bring some life back into the world and understanding.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And, of course, the holiday seasons are good for that. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian person or Jewish or Muslim, whatever your faith is. There's something about this time of year when the darkness descends and we put lights up and we have this joy-filled music, both sacred and secular. We all feel it. It does something to us. It brings life. It brings light to us. And that's kind of what's going to happen now in book 2 as Toby confronts darkness with joy. And the way that it all happens is meant to be, humorous and playful. But as I did with book 1 and am doing with book 2 and then the books to come, what I want to share with especially our middle grade readers, is a vision for who they can be as they become adults. So in the first book, the book was built around a vision for being a hero. This one builds on that, and the vision is on being wise. And so wisdom will guide him now this time around in the story. And each letter in the word wise stands for something that helps him as he tries to solve the problem that he's facing and the challenges that he's facing.
You know, I think it's so important that we encourage our kids to dream and to have goals and to have a vision. I did an experiment. I had read a story about how kids who have a dream, have a goal, do so much better in school and are happier. And when I was reading, and I thought, well, every kid has a goal. This is silly. You're talking about everybody. But then I did a very unscientific experiment, and I had a series I was on tour, and I was at 2 or 3 different schools a day. And so for about a week, in the middle of my show, just kind of asked, hey, how many of you guys have a goal? How many dream? I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be this or that or whatever. Just raise your hand. And there were never more than 60% of the kids who raised their hands. And very often there were less than 40% of the kids raising their hands. And I was really shocked and saddened to see how many kids in this middle grade age that don't have a goal, that don't have a dream or a vision for their lives.
Yeah, well, our kids are facing challenges that the two of us didn't face so much when we were growing up. And one of those is there are upsides to social media and there's some downsides. And one of the downsides to social media is it creates a vision in our kids that tends to keep them hooked to a screen, or a vision that has to do with success and fame, just for being famous, rather than some sort of a vision of how they can contribute to society, how they can love themselves as they are, which enables them better to contribute to society. And so that's one of the great tools, say fantasy adventure, and you see this in the Harry Potter books and Percy Jackson books. I tried to be a bit more upfront with it. Is it brings kids into a different world. They live vicariously through a hero who's like them. This hero then vision of who he's going to be, and we don't really see that happening with a lot of our kids today, where they're really being challenged to think, who can you be? These are your gifts. This is what I see in you. This is who you can become. And instead, their minds sort of become numb after a while. Not all of them, but on social media. And so, again, as parents, we want to be really cognizant of what our kids are consuming. And we know, and you know this because you're in the business, that one of the ways we create a vision in our kids is through language, through words, and not words in social media, but words that come through books and conversation. And whether it's having our kids read books, read to us, or we read to them, there is a lot of research that just says that the conversations and reading together helps instill a vision and awakens the brain, and it just makes us better overall people. Mm-hmm. So the more that we can get our kids to engage with books, obviously I want to promote mine, but the more we can get kids to engage with books that have a vision for them, the better off our kids are going to be. Yeah. More books, less social media.
Imagine how powerful it would be to be co-reading River Home for the holidays with your kids, and then on the way to soccer or ballet or school, you're talking about Toby's vision, and then you just gently say to your kids, "Wow, what's your vision?"
Yeah.
Do you ever think about what your vision for yourself, for your future is? And you don't even have to, you can let them know that they don't have to tell you or answer to you, but just flick that switch, get that thought process going.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I did with this book, I'm going to be 66 here this month. So my life perspective is very different than the Toby Baxter world, a 13-year-old right now. So what I did was I intentionally put in some references to my world where I grew up, so that as parents and as grandparents read the story, some of those references hopefully the kids will find funny, but they may not fully appreciate. So mom or dad, grandma or grandpa can say, hey, let me tell you what this really means. It's almost like, remember when we grew up and we would watch cartoons, which is true today, and when you were a kid, you thought they were hilarious, and when you're an adult, you think they are really hilarious because the jokes are really for adults.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I tried to do with this book, that the kids will love it, but I've been really thrilled with the number of adults who've really been having a good time reading the book themselves. Allows them to be kids, but also there are enough references to keep adults engaged.
Yeah. Well, I think the middle grade genre is... those books they're just great.
Yeah.
And, they might not have the quote unquote real language that a lot of books written for adults might have. And they might not have the obligatory, private eye going to bed with, the 60-year-old private eye
right.
going to bed with the 20-year-old, that I just kind of skip through. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I can't go there. But, the stories are great, and they're fast-paced, and, and they're fun. They're just so much fun.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice just to read a book that's easy to consume, fun to consume, and takes you to a world for a while that's different than your own. And I agree with you. Big fan of the Percy Jackson books, of the Harry Potter books, which were written kind of for that age group. Lord of the Rings written for, probably a little older age group. But I just love, once in a while, I'll pick up a middle school book and, man, this is great. I don't have to, I can just allow the book to work its magic on me.
Yeah.
Without having, as you say, to work through some of the stuff that you think, oh, come on, I don't need this. I don't need to read this. I don't need it in my brain.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's the magic of middle school books, is that they can speak well to adults as well.
Yeah. And the other thing I find is just that that light, and I don't mean light, less weight, but that light, that bright energy that these books have. There's a positivity to the books that, the grizzled detective that is miserable and lost his job, but he's still solving crimes. And these are I'm giving away the kind of books that I love to read.
Yeah. Well, I'm into British mysteries myself, so I get what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like, there's, the kind of good guy wins at the end, but there's an awful lot of dark and depressing thoughts along the way.
Yeah. And, certainly there's a place for that. I read those books, you read those books, and there's some life story to that. But we've got, when you're talking about middle school readers like you're doing, the great work you're doing, these are kids who, they do need characters who identify with the emotional ups and downs they're going through. And I'm going to deal with that a little bit more in book 3 for Toby. But at the same time, they don't need more depression put on top of their already hormonal stuff they're going through. They need, you're right, a vision, something that lifts their spirit, makes them smile, maybe makes them think, which I hope, will happen with River Home for the holidays, and inspire, right? Inspire. And we have so much. You started out the show kind of saying that we have so much bad news all around us. And social media, of course, is built on bad news. It's built on grievance and anger and outrage. Our kids don't need more of that. And middle school books can really come along and just clear the brain out for a while for those kids.
Yeah. In addition to sitting down and having great conversations about great books like River Home for the Holidays, I think it's important that we sit down and we have conversations with our kids about the social media that they are consuming. And that's a really important word. We're consuming it. We're digesting it. And it's coming into our minds. And it's maybe not giving our minds good nutrition, but it's, fueling our minds. And we don't have to be judgmental about specific things that the kids are seeing, but just helping them understand that, hey, what you're seeing what you're seeing on social media is different than what I'm seeing, because this giant computer is figuring out, I can get Tim to click on something because he really responds to this or that. And in almost every case, we respond to negative things. And so they're intentionally feeding us things that are going to get us worked up, get us angry, get us, fuel that anxiety. And I think if kids start to understand that, maybe they'll be less glued to their screens. Maybe they'll start to find the strength to sit down and go, I'm going to pick up a book instead of picking up Instagram today.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard because I'm not using the word clinically. I'll use it just kind of freely. It's addictive. Mm-hmm. And you want those likes, you want those emojis, and everybody else is doing it. It's the way that we communicate with our friends. So you're right. We as parents, grandparents, do have this awesome privilege to sit down with our kids and kind of talk it through. This is what it does to your brain. Research says that kids are more depressed when they're on social media. All those things are true. Kids know it. So what are some things we can do, as alternatives to that? And read a book or listen to a book. It doesn't matter if you read it or listen to it. It's the same. It's good for the brain. And those things will help us produce much better kids as they grow than a lot of the social media will do.
Yeah. And better, not just in terms of better person or, any kind of judgment, better as in happier.
Yes.
And healthier and less anxious. I don't think there's any surprise that the number of kids who are feeling anxious and dealing with anxiety has grown the more social media has grown.
Right. And even as adults, we both know this. When I'm on social media, there are times when, man, I just all of a sudden, why do I feel so anxious or so angry? Right? It's because I just came across a post that was just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And the algorithm wanted me to come across that post because it wants me to respond, because I'm not going to respond necessarily to stuff that makes me feel good. I'm going to respond to the outrage. Right. And the whole thing is built on outrage. And so if we're not careful, we'll end up raising a whole generation of kids who are always outraged.
Yeah. Oh, we don't need that.
No. We're seeing enough of it in our politics today to tell us that's not the way we want to go.
Absolutely. So are you finding, this writing middle grade novels has come to you later in life? You shared that you're going to be turning 66 soon. Is this bringing you a lot of joy to your life?
Oh, my goodness. It is so much fun. And, once you get the first book done there, you have to use that first book to set everything up, put your world in place, get your characters. After that, and that one took me 2 years to write, man, I'm just sitting down when I get the chance, because I'm still working full time. But when I get the chance, it just comes out. I don't really have a plan. I sort of know what word I'm going to use in each book. It was hero, it was wise. This next one is good. And then love. Toby's going to have some adventures in love in a lot of different ways. So I sort of know the word I want to work with, and then just sit down and start typing and see where the story leads me. And I'll go back and kind of read to make sure that I'm keeping on track. And wow, where did that come from? And so I'm kind of surprised even where the story takes me. So I've really been having a great time. I envision this being 7 books ultimately. And I so far I've been really pleased. Reviews from you and others, and of course online, have been very, very positive, very, very affirming. That what I hope to set out to do and had fun doing, people are having fun reading.
Well, that's really gratifying, and I am so happy for you. And I'm so happy that there are going to be more adventures of Toby Baxter. You were mentioning you've created this world, and in book 1 you kind of created the world and the laws of physics of that world. But you also mentioned you have to go back and make sure you're staying on track. Do you create like a roadmap, for, knowing, okay, gravity works this way in this instance, in this universe? And
No, I think one of the things I'm pretty good at is holding a bunch of things together in my brain. But every once in a while I'll go back and say, oh, wait, I can't, that's not right. That doesn't work. So I'm constantly rereading as I write. So like book 3 right now is done. I got to go back and edit it. But I'm writing book 4 and want to finish book 4 before I go back and edit book 3 so that I make sure I'm staying fairly consistent between the books. And these books I try to keep them under 200 pages. I want them to be a quick, easy read for kids so they'll sit down and want to read it. Mm-hmm. I don't want them picking up a 400-page book and groaning and thinking, oh, my goodness, I'll never get through this. But I can read 200 pages.
Yep.
And just, kind of fast-paced. They're not overloaded with detail. I just want them to enjoy the story. A lot of humor. I play around with grammar for these, just, to poke fun at grammar a little bit, which is difficult for all of us. Like, why do words start with the letter E or H if it's silent? What's the point of that? Mm-hmm. And to have some fun with that. So, I try to keep it all in my brain, and I'm sure a very careful reader is going to find at some point where I broke the laws of my own world. But, it's a magic realm, so you can always break the laws.
And it's your world, so,
it's my world. We'll just say, well, it was magic.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I wish Toby Baxter was around when my son was just starting to read, 5, 6 years old, because he wanted me to read him Harry Potter. And when I opened up that book and I saw 800 pages, I'm like, oh, yeah. No, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, we did it. The movie.
Well, this is before the movie, so but we got through book 1, and then when book 2 came out, he decided that he could do it on his own, and I was like, good for you. Let's talk about it.
Good on him. There were kids who were reading. I mean, that was a reading phenomena.
Yes, absolutely.
Good on her and all those folks behind that book. Yeah, those books.
Well, let's hope that folks fall in love with Toby Baxter the same way they fell in love with Harry. One way to help them fall in love is to tell us all where we can go to find out more about Toby Baxter, River Home for the Holidays, and find out more about you.
Sure. If they go to Tim Wright Books, TIMWRIGHT, timwrightbooks.com, they'll find links for both the books. There's also a couple links to some free ebooks for both of the books, and I'll do this with all 7. I've written a little prelude. So I give a little background or prequel, a little background to each book. I did that with book 1. I've done it with book 2. I've got it for book 3. So it fills in some blanks that I don't fill in the main book. And those are free. And there's just a link right there. You download those. You can have them. And if you've never read the books, try out the prequels. See if you like the writing. And then you can pick up the books. So they're on Amazon. But if they go to timwrightbooks.com, they'll get links to all that stuff.
And we can also, when we get to timwright.com, also ask, why is there that pesky silent W at the beginning of your name?
We sure could. Yeah. So it's timwrightbooks.com, timwrightbooks.com, and the W is silent, but it's important.
Yes, very important. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. We'll join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Want to thank the folks that made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, James Ponti. Please be sure to check out City Spies, Europa. Also want to thank Tim Wright. Want to thank my team, Chris Doherty, Jackson Sotolaro, Joanne Lynn. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.